Representatives of the Russian elite do not expect the war in Ukraine to end soon after the start of negotiations between Moscow and Washington, high-ranking officials told Faridaily. According to them, Russian President Vladimir Putin believes that he understands the character of US President Donald Trump well and can persuade him to end the war on Russia's terms. But Putin is also ready to wage war for 100 years. Putin's idea is to wait until Ukraine collapses, said the publication's interlocutor familiar with negotiations. At the same time, he added that this idea is not so stupid. Representatives of the Russian government as a whole did not expect Trump to take such a pro-Russian position. However, now they fear that the American president may set a trap. The situation is unpredictable. He can explode at any moment. I am very afraid of Trump's radical behavior, said the source who has worked with Putin for over 20 years. He believes that Trump is pursuing his own interests and that if the negotiations with Moscow disappoint him, Russian-American relations could get even worse. Meanwhile, while Putin is focused on the negotiations with the United States, ordinary political life in Russia has practically come to a standstill as officials at all levels are waiting for the results of the peace dialogue, Faridaily notes. Even the work in the Russian parliament has slowed down in the conditions of uncertainty. Fewer laws are being passed, and deputies refuse to comment on foreign policy. It has become quiet everywhere in domestic politics, confirmed one of the State Duma deputies. The current situation in Russia is similar to what it was in the months before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Faridaily's sources note. Everyone is trying to guess what is going on in Putin's head. Either he is not telling anyone anything, or he is telling everyone different things, said a source close to the US-Russian negotiations. Previously, participants in a closed meeting with Putin, which took place on March the 18th, as part of the Congress of the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs, said that the president warned major businessmen that a quick settlement of the conflict in Ukraine is not expected. He also urged them not to hope for a quick lifting of sanctions. According to Kommersant, Putin told businessmen that he demanded that the Crimea and 4 regions of Ukraine occupied during the war be officially recognized as Russian. At the same time, according to the publication, he made it clear that if Kiev does not agree to these conditions, then Russia may launch an offensive on Odessa and other territories of Ukraine. Sources of the Moscow Times previously said that Putin was counting on delaying peace talks on Ukraine in order to seize as many territories as possible. Time is now on our side, and we will try to make the most of it, noted one of the Russian diplomats. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin's puppet, Ramzan Kadyrov, has started a conflict with the Kremlin over negotiations with other countries over the security of his assets and family, important stories reported. As the publication has found out, Kadyrov has begun negotiations with the authorities of the Middle East countries regarding the future of his assets and the safety of his family members, without the Kremlin's consent. The publication reported this with reference to a former and current FSB officer who specializes in the North Caucasus. This information was partially confirmed by a North Caucasus journalist and human rights activist. According to the publication, against the backdrop of his deteriorating health, Ramzan Kadyrov tried to negotiate with the leaders of Muslim countries in secret from the Kremlin. But Russian intelligence services found out about this and reported it to Vladimir Putin. At the same time as relations with Moscow worsened on Friday, Ramzan Kadyrov's daughter, Aishat, left her post as Deputy Prime Minister of Chechnya. The split also affected Kadyrov's ally, State Duma Deputy Adam Delimkhanov. He was really made to understand the limits of his capabilities, said Chechen movement representative Niso Ansar Dishny. The publication also found out that Kadyrov has been seriously ill for a long time. As Novaya Gazeta Europe journalists reported in their investigation, he has serious problems with his kidneys and pancreas. Journalists believe that his illness is progressing. Although Kadirov is trying to hide his worsening condition with increased media activity, in recent months he has increasingly disappeared from the public eye for long periods of time. He understands well how power is structured in his region and what can await his family members if he leaves. He also knows the value of promises and security guarantees from the federal center. Uncertainty about the future of his relatives forced him to seek guarantees for them in Middle Eastern Muslim countries with whose leaders Kadyrov has long-standing friendly relations, the publication says. The reason for such steps could be the deterioration of Kadyrov's health. As reported by Novaya Gazeta Europe, he has serious problems with his kidneys and pancreas. It has become more difficult for him to speak in public, which may indicate the progression of the disease. Kadyrov has appeared in public less frequently in recent months. In January and February, he was out of the spotlight for a long time, later explaining that he was on vacation. "There is no illness that has not been attributed to me," he said after his return. On January the 30th, it was reported that Kadyrov's cousin Shakrudi Edilgiriev purchased several luxury properties in Dubai for the head of Chechnya.
The Ukrainian armed forces militants hit the Sudza gas measuring station with a package of HIMARS rockets. As a result, the power facility caught fire and ceased to exist. Over the past 24 hours, the Kiev regime has continued attacks on Russian energy infrastructure using various types of UAVs, as well as the HIMARS multiple launch rocket system. On March 28, at about 10:20, the Kiev regime launched an attack using, according to preliminary information, HIMARS multiple launch rockets at the Sudza gas metering station, which resulted in a major fire and the energy facility was virtually destroyed, the Russian Defense Ministry commented on the latest terrorist act by the Kiev regime. The military department noted that on the morning of March 28, Russian air defense systems in the Saratov region shot down and intercepted 19 Ukrainian aircraft-type attack UAVs, the target of which was the infrastructure of the Saratov oil refinery. Thus, all publicly stated commitments of the Kiev regime to allegedly stop deliberate attacks on Russian civilian energy infrastructure are yet another ploy by Zelensky to prevent the collapse of the Ukrainian armed forces front and restore its military potential with the help of European allies, the Russian Defense Ministry emphasized. A Ukrainian official said it was Russia that attacked the gas transit point in Sudza. Reuters could not independently confirm which side was responsible. But each side has accused the other of breaking the energy truce, underscoring the fragility of the US-brokered agreements. Sudza, in Russia's western region of Kursk, is the site of a gas metering station at the transit point where Russia pumped gas by pipeline across Ukraine and into Europe until the end of last year. Flows stopped on January 1 after Ukraine declined to renew the deal because of the war. Pipeline infrastructure for possible Russian gas exports via Ukraine to Europe still remains in place, including at other locations, but the Sudza facility would need to be rebuilt in order for gas to be pumped again there at any point in the future.